the new god of energy, the new gods of energy, the new god of energy, the new goddess of energy, the new goddesses of energy, the new goddess of energy, the old god of energy, the old gods of energy, the old god of energy, the old goddess of energy, the old goddesses of energy, the old goddess of energy, the greater god of energy, the greater gods of energy, the greater god of energy, the greater goddess of energy, the greater goddesses of energy, the greater goddess of energy, the lesser god of energy, the lesser gods of energy, the lesser god of energy, the lesser goddess of energy, the lesser goddesses of energy, the lesser goddess of energy, the higher god of energy, the higher gods of energy, the higher god of energy, the higher goddess of energy, the higher goddesses of energy, the higher goddess of energy, the lower god of energy, the lower gods of energy, the lower god of energy, the lower goddess of energy, the lower goddesses of energy, the lower goddess of energy, the greater spirit of energy, the greater spirits of energy, the greater spirit of energy, the lesser spirit of energy, the lesser spirits of energy, the lesser spirit of energy, the higher spirit of energy, the higher spirits of energy, the higher spirit of energy, the lower spirit of energy, the lower spirits of energy, the lower spirit of energy, the major god of energy, the major gods of energy, the major god of energy, the major goddess of energy, the major goddesses of energy, the major goddess of energy, the minor god of energy, the minor gods of energy, the minor god of energy, the minor goddess of energy, the minor goddesses of energy, the minor goddess of energy, the superior god of energy, the superior gods of energy, the superior god of energy, the superior goddess of energy, the superior goddesses of energy, the superior goddess of energy, the inferior god of energy, the inferior gods of energy, the inferior god of energy, the inferior goddess of energy, the inferior goddesses of energy, the inferior goddess of energy, the ancestor god of energy, the ancestor gods of energy, the ancestor god of energy, the ancestor goddess of energy, the ancestor goddesses of energy, the ancestor goddess of energy, the ascendant god of energy, the ascendant gods of energy, the ascendant god of energy, the ascendant goddess of energy, the ascendant goddesses of energy, the ascendant goddess of energy, the descendant god of energy, the descendant gods of energy, the descendant god of energy, the descendant goddess of energy, the descendant goddesses of energy, the descendant goddess of energy, the transcendent god of energy, the transcendent gods of energy, the transcendent god of energy, the transcendent goddess of energy, the transcendent goddesses of energy, the transcendent goddess of energy, the past god of energy, the past gods of energy, the past god of energy, the past goddess of energy, the past goddesses of energy, the past goddess of energy, the present god of energy, the present gods of energy, the present god of energy, the present goddess of energy, the present goddesses of energy, the present goddess of energy, the future god of energy, the future gods of energy, the future god of energy, the future goddess of energy, the future goddesses of energy, the future goddess of energy, the authentic god of energy, the authentic gods of energy, the authentic god of energy, the authentic goddess of energy, the authentic goddesses of energy, the authentic goddess of energy, the synthetic god of energy, the synthetic gods of energy, the synthetic god of energy, the synthetic goddess of energy, the synthetic goddesses of energy, the synthetic goddess of energy, the progressive god of energy, the progressive gods of energy, the progressive god of energy, the progressive goddess of energy, the progressive goddesses of energy, the progressive goddess of energy, the regressive god of energy, the regressive gods of energy, the regressive god of energy, the regressive goddess of energy, the regressive goddesses of energy, the regressive goddess of energy, the ordinary god of energy, the ordinary gods of energy, the ordinary god of energy, the ordinary goddess of energy, the ordinary goddesses of energy, the ordinary goddess of energy, the extraordinary god of energy, the extraordinary gods of energy, the extraordinary god of energy, the extraordinary goddess of energy, the extraordinary goddesses of energy, the extraordinary goddess of energy, the static god of energy, the static gods of energy, the static god of energy, the static goddess of energy, the static goddesses of energy, the static goddess of energy, the dynamic god of energy, the dynamic gods of energy, the dynamic god of energy, the dynamic goddess of energy, the dynamic goddesses of energy, the dynamic goddess of energy, the land god of energy, the land gods of energy, the land god of energy, the land goddess of energy, the land goddesses of energy, the land goddess of energy, the sea god of energy, the sea gods of energy, the sea god of energy, the sea goddess of energy, the sea goddesses of energy, the sea goddess of energy, the sky god of energy, the sky gods of energy, the sky god of energy, the sky goddess of energy, the sky goddesses of energy, the sky goddess of energy, the god of energy, the gods of energy, the god of energy, the goddess of energy, the goddesses of energy, the goddess of energy, the half god of energy, the half gods of energy, the half god of energy, the half goddess of energy, the half goddesses of energy, the half goddess of energy, the vessel of energy, the vessels of energy, the vessel of energy, the name of energy, the names of energy, the name of energy, the person of energy, the persons of energy, the person of energy, the person of energy, the personas of energy, the person of energy, the personage of energy, the personages of energy, the personage of energy, the personality of energy, the personalities of energy, the personality of energy, the personification of energy, the personifications of energy, the personification of energy, the image of energy, the images of energy, the image of energy, the imagination of energy, the imaginations of energy, the imagination of energy, the belief of energy, the beliefs of energy, the belief of energy, the thought of energy, the thoughts of energy, the thought of energy, the word of energy, the words of energy, the word of energy, the action of energy, the actions of energy, the action of energy, the reaction of energy, the reactions of energy, the reaction of energy, the feeling of energy, the feelings of energy, the feeling of energy, the situation of energy, the situations of energy, the situation of energy, the circumstance of energy, the circumstances of energy, the circumstance of energy, the environment of energy, the environments of energy, the environment of energy, the relationship of energy, the relationships of energy, the relationship of energy, the number of energy, the numbers of energy, the number of energy, the formula of energy, the formulas of energy, the formula of energy, the equation of energy, the equations of energy, the equation of energy, the theory of energy, the theories of energy, the theory of energy, the symbol of energy, the symbols of energy, the symbol of energy, the color of energy, the colors of energy, the color of energy, the thing of energy, the things of energy, the thing of energy, the way of energy, the ways of energy, the way of energy, the place of energy, the places of energy, the place of energy, the time of energy, the times of energy, the time of energy, the event of energy, the events of energy, the event of energy, the result of energy, the results of energy, the result of energy, the crown of energy, the crowns of energy, the crown of energy, the throne of energy, the thrones of energy, the throne of energy, the energy king, the energy kings, the energy kingdom, the energy kingdoms, the energy king subject, the energy king subjects, the energy king's dominion, the energy king's dominions, the kingdom of energy, the kingdoms of energy, the kingdom of energy, the energy queen, The energy queens. The energy queendom. The energy queendoms. The energy queen subject. The energy queen subjects. The energy queen's dominion. The energy queen's dominions. The queendom of energy. The queendoms of energy. The queendom of energy. The energy prince. The energy princes. The energy prince dom. The energy prince doms. The energy prince's subject. The energy prince's subjects. The energy prince's dominion. The energy prince's dominions. The prince dom of energy. The prince doms of energy. The prince dom of energy. The energy princess. The energy princesses. The energy princess dom. The energy princess doms. The energy princess's subject. The energy princess's subjects. The energy princess's dominion. The energy princess's dominions. The princess dom of energy. The princess doms of energy. The princess dom of energy. The lord of energy. The lords of energy. The lord of energy. The lordess of energy. The lordesses of energy. The lordess of energy. The priest of energy. The priests of energy. The priest of energy. The priestess of energy. The priestesses of energy. The priestess of energy. The ritual of energy. The rituals of energy. The ritual of energy. The shrine of energy. The shrines of energy. The shrine of energy. The temple of energy. The temples of energy. The temple of energy. The leader of energy. The leaders of energy. The leader of energy. The follower of energy. The followers of energy. The follower of energy. The natural substance of energy. The natural substances of energy. The natural substance of energy. The supernatural substance of energy. The supernatural substances of energy. The supernatural substance of energy. The temporal substance of energy. The temporal substances of energy. The temporal substance of energy. The spiritual substance of energy. The spiritual substances of energy. The spiritual substance of energy. The natural form of energy. The natural forms of energy. The natural form of energy. The supernatural form of energy. The supernatural forms of energy. The supernatural form of energy. The temporal form of energy. The temporal forms of energy. The temporal form of energy. The spiritual form of energy. The spiritual forms of energy. The spiritual form of energy. The age of energy. The ages of energy. The age of energy. The era of energy. The eras of energy. The era of energy. The awakener of energy. The awakeners of energy. The awakener of energy. The awakening of energy. The awakenings of energy. The awakening of energy. The realm of energy. The realms of energy. The realm of energy. The dimension of energy. The dimensions of energy. The dimension of energy. The zone of energy. The zones of energy. The zone of energy. The frequency of energy. The frequencies of energy. The frequency of energy. The century of energy. The centuries of energy. The century of energy. The millennium of energy. The millenniums of energy. The millennium of energy. The purpose of energy. The purposes of energy. The purpose of energy. The meaning of energy. The meanings of energy. The meaning of energy. The culture of energy. The cultures of energy. The culture of energy. The demonstrator of energy. The demonstrators of energy. The demonstrator of energy. The demonstration of energy. The demonstrations of energy. The demonstration of energy. The manifester of energy. The manifestors of energy. The manifester of energy. The manifestation of energy. The manifestations of energy. The manifestation of energy. The presence of energy. The presences of energy. The presence of energy. The glow of energy. The glows of energy. The glow of energy. The goal of energy. The goals of energy. The goal of energy. The plan of energy. The plans of energy. The plan of energy. The book of energy. The books of energy. The book of energy. The philosopher of energy. The philosophers of energy. The philosopher of energy. The philosophy of energy. The philosophies of energy. The philosophy of energy. The releaser of energy. the releasers of energy, the releaser of energy, the release of energy, the releases of energy, the release of energy, the variable of energy, the variables of energy, the variable of energy, the cause of energy, the causes of energy, the cause of energy, the effect of energy, the effects of energy, the effect of energy, the journey of energy, the journeys of energy, the journey of energy, the emergence of energy, the emergences of energy, the emergence of energy, the source of energy, the sources of energy, the source of energy, the originator of energy, the originators of energy, the originator of energy, the origin of energy, the origins of energy, the origin of energy, the forefather of energy, the forefathers of energy, the forefather of energy, the foremother of energy, the foremothers of energy, the foremother of energy, the ancestor of energy, the ancestors of energy, the ancestor of energy, the descendant of energy, the descendants of energy, the descendant of energy, the lineage of energy, the lineages of energy, the lineage of energy, the heritage of energy, the heritages of energy, the heritage of energy, the heir of energy, the heirs of energy, the heir of energy, the co-heir of energy, the co-heirs of energy, the co-heir of energy, the joint heir of energy, the joint heirs of energy, the joint heir of energy, the dynasty of energy, the dynasties of energy, the dynasty of energy, the force of energy, the forces of energy, the force of energy, the law of energy, the laws of energy, the law of energy, the pact of energy, the pacts of energy, the pact of energy, the game of energy, the games of energy, the game of energy, the mask of energy, the masks of energy, the mask of energy, the armor of energy, the armors of energy, the armor of energy, the sword of energy, the swords of energy, the sword of energy, the shield of energy, the shields of energy, the shield of energy, the force shield of energy, the force shields of energy, the force shield of energy, the armored force shield of energy, the armored force shields of energy, the armored force shield of energy, the champion of energy, the champions of energy, the champion of energy, the guardian of energy, the guardians of energy, the guardian of energy, the defender of energy, the defenders of energy, the defender of energy, the protector of energy, the protectors of energy, the protector of energy, the chant of energy, the chants of energy, the chant of energy, the shape of energy, the shapes of energy, the shape of energy, the cube of energy, the cubes of energy, the cube of energy, the cuboid of energy, the cuboids of energy, the cuboid of energy, the sphere of energy, the spheres of energy, the sphere of energy, the spheroid of energy, the spheroids of energy, the spheroid of energy, the prism of energy, the prisms of energy, the prism of energy, the pyramid of energy, the pyramids of energy, the pyramid of energy, the cylinder of energy, the cylinders of energy, the cylinder of energy, the cone of energy, the cones of energy, the cone of energy, the triangle of energy, the triangles of energy, the triangle of energy, the circle of energy, the circles of energy, the circle of energy, the semicircle of energy, the semicircles of energy, the semicircle of energy, the square of energy, the squares of energy, the square of energy, the rectangle of energy, the rectangles of energy, the rectangle of energy, the parallelogram of energy, the parallelograms of energy, the parallelogram of energy, the rhombus of energy, the rhombuses of energy, the rhombus of energy, the trapezoid of energy, the trapezoids of energy, the trapezoid of energy, the polygon of energy, the polygons of energy, the polygon of energy, the pentagon of energy, the pentagons of energy, the pentagon of energy, the hexagon of energy, the hexagons of energy, the hexagon of energy, the septagon of energy, the septagons of energy, the septagon of energy, the octagon of energy, the octagons of energy, the octagon of energy, the nonagon of energy, the nonagons of energy, the nonagon of energy, the decagon of energy, the decagons of energy, the decagon of energy, the evolution of energy, the evolutions of energy, the evolution of energy, the revolution of energy, the revolutions of energy, the revolution of energy, the elemental art of energy, the elemental arts of energy, the elemental art of energy, the elemental science of energy, the elemental sciences of energy, the elemental science of energy, the elemental principle of energy, the elemental principles of energy, the elemental principle of energy, the elemental technology of energy, the elemental technologies of energy, the elemental technology of energy, the low elemental art of energy, the low elemental arts of energy, the low elemental art of energy, the low elemental science of energy, the low elemental sciences of energy, the low elemental science of energy, the low elemental principle of energy, the low elemental principles of energy, the low elemental principle of energy, the low elemental technology of energy, the low elemental technologies of energy, the low elemental technology of energy, the high elemental art of energy, the high elemental arts of energy, the high elemental art of energy, the high elemental science of energy, the high elemental sciences of energy, the high elemental science of energy, the high elemental principle of energy, the high elemental principles of energy, the high elemental principle of energy, the high elemental technology of energy, the high elemental technologies of energy, the high elemental technology of energy, the agent of energy, the agents of energy, the agent of energy, the agency of energy, the agencies of energy, the agency of energy, the amplifier of energy, the amplifiers of energy, the amplifier of energy, the amplification of energy, the amplifications of energy, the amplification of energy, the enhancer of energy, the enhancers of energy, the enhancer of energy, the enhancement of energy, the enhancements of energy, the enhancement of energy, the magnifier of energy, the magnifiers of energy, the magnifier of energy, the magnification of energy, the magnifications of energy, the magnification of energy, the influencer of energy, the influencers of energy, the influencer of energy, the influence of energy, the influences of energy, the influence of energy, the emanator of energy, the emanators of energy, the emanator of energy, the emanation of energy, the emanations of energy, the emanation of energy, the converger of energy, the convergers of energy, the converger of energy, the convergence of energy, the convergences of energy, the convergence of energy, the aura of energy, the auras of energy, the aura of energy, the impression of energy, the impressions of energy, the impression of energy, the intelligence of energy, the intelligences of energy, the intelligence of energy, the sophistication of energy, the sophistications of energy, the sophistication of energy, the genius of energy, the geniuses of energy, the genius of energy, the polymath of energy, the polymaths of energy, the polymath of energy, the psychic of energy, the psychics of energy, the psychic of energy, the knowledge of energy, the knowledges of energy, the knowledge of energy, the understanding of energy, the understandings of energy, the understanding of energy, the wisdom of energy, the wisdoms of energy, the wisdom of energy, the secret of energy, the secrets of energy, the secret of energy, the mystery of energy, the mysteries of energy, the mystery of energy, the revelation of energy, the revelations of energy, the revelation of energy, the tactic of energy, the tactics of energy, the tactic of energy, the strategy of energy, the strategies of energy, the strategy of energy, the strength of energy, the strengths of energy, the strength of energy, the might of energy, the mights of energy, the might of energy, the power of energy, the powers of energy, the power of energy, the authority of energy, the authorities of energy, the authority of energy, the dominion of energy, the dominions of energy, the dominion of energy, the rhythm of energy, the rhythms of energy, the rhythm of energy, the melody of energy, the melodies of energy, the melody of energy, the music of energy, the musics of energy, the music of energy, the lyric of energy, the lyrics of energy, the lyric of energy, the song of energy, the songs of energy, the song of energy, the dance of energy, the dances of energy, the dance of energy, the spirit of energy, the spirits of energy, the spirit of energy, the soul of energy, the souls of energy, the soul of energy, the body of energy, the bodies of energy, the body of energy, the mark of energy, the marks of energy, the mark of energy, the promise of energy, the promises of energy, the promise of energy, the visionary of energy, the visionaries of energy, the visionary of energy, the vision of energy, the visions of energy, the vision of energy, the picture of energy, the pictures of energy, the picture of energy, the sound of energy, the sounds of energy, the sound of energy, the tongue of energy, the tongues of energy, the tongue of energy, the language of energy, the languages of energy, the language of energy, the communication of energy, the communications of energy, the communication of energy, the people of energy, the peoples of energy, the people of energy, the society of energy, the societies of energy, the society of energy, the fortress of energy, the fortresses of energy, the fortress of energy, the government of energy, the governments of energy, the government of energy, the city of energy, the cities of energy, the city of energy, the nation of energy, the nations of energy, the nation of energy, the civilization of energy, the civilizations of energy, the civilization of energy, the world of energy, the worlds of energy, the world of energy,